Nothing beats getting 95% in that class that you absolutely hate, especially after goofing around the entire day instead of studying. I'm guessing this is what they call as work-life balance. I didn't even touch my notes the day before my A-level chemistry exam and I still got my A's. No cramming, no last-minute panic, literally just vibes. And I know some of you guys clicked on this video thinking,
I have an exam tomorrow, so can I hit the club tonight?
absolutely not. That's not what I mean. But you don't have to cram for your exam either. If you do want a stress-free exam season where you don't have to cram for everything the night before, you don't have to panic 4 hours before the exam, you don't have to literally have a mental breakdown the morning of your exam, I know I've been there too, and still secure that A+, then let me tell you how I did it. The secret is I started 3 months before, and before you say, oh my god, that sounds like so much effort, hear me out. This wasn't hard work, it was smart work. I'm not the type to sit around for hours and do hours of mindless studying when it's not going to get into my head at all anyways. I found a system that lets me chill while I'm still getting the top grades that I want. Now the first method is the past paper method. Past papers are literally everything. People love to romanticize aesthetic notes, but let's be real, they're not going to get you anywhere and you're not even going to look at it again. Writing everything in like 5 different colors with calligraphy pens is not going to get you your A+. What actually works, that's going to be your past papers. I treated my past papers like a practice round. It's literally like a game to me at this point. I don't use it as a reminder that my exam's coming up like some of you would. I use it as literally a way for me to study. I wasn't trying to learn the subject from scratch. I was learning how to beat the exam itself. Now here's why this works better than rereading your notes about 10 times. Firstly, the questions are repetitive. The exam boards are quite lazy. They give you the same questions over and over again. Obviously, the concepts are the same as well. You're not going to get completely different topics that you've never seen before. The topics are always the same, and there's not a lot that you can ask with that topic, you know? So if you do enough past papers, you start to see the same types of questions over and over again. Secondly, pattern recognition. It's kind of similar to the first one here. I started to notice not just the questions that they gave me, but also the mistakes that I keep making. And because I was able to spot out the mistakes that I would make, I was able to fix it quite early on as well. Number 3 is my answering style. Examiners have a very specific way of how they want you to answer the questions with very specific keywords, and because I knew what those were in the beginning and I know all of the command words by the time my exams came, it actually made it so easy for me. I can literally write the perfect answer without thinking too much about it. I don't even need to know most of my knowledge and I'd still be able to do it just because I know how to hack the exam. It's literally like cracking a code. The more past papers that I did, the easier everything became. Initially, I started with open book past papers. I didn't do it blindly because obviously at the start I didn't know any of the content, and it would literally just be a waste of time for me to sit there and stare at the paper because I don't know how to answer it. So I'd go to the questions with my notes and the mark scheme in order to answer it, and eventually after I do a bunch of it, my brain would just automatically remember it. Once I did get familiar with it, I would start to do the questions under time conditions as if it was an actual exam. After a while, I barely needed my notes at all and I knew everything by heart. And literally, you could ask me anything about A-level chemistry and I'd be able to answer it, which makes sense because I'm also an A-level chemistry tutor. Now, there is a strategy to this as well in terms of how you could separate out your day. And this is what I call as a daily 24-hour plan. Some people make study schedules with color-coded calendars and 6-hour study blocks, but let's be real, that's just not sustainable. Especially for me, I would look at that, it would be nice. It looks great for me to look at, but once I start doing it, I would actually feel so overwhelmed. Like my calendar right now on my Google Calendar looks like an absolute mess. I have something in every second, but I don't actually follow it. And because I don't follow it, it stresses me out. So what I do instead is I use a 24-hour plan every day. Nothing fancy, just a simple checklist of what I need to do in that day itself. Sometimes I even literally write it down on a piece of paper like this, and I would lose this paper, but it's perfectly fine because I just need it for the day itself. If you do have a notebook, you can also put it into your notebook, and what I usually write in this notebook is I write what topics I need to cover, when I will do the past papers, and what breaks and free time I will give myself. I tend to do them in chunks, so instead of being like from 9 to 5 you do this, I would say, okay, today I need to do this amount of past papers, this amount of breaks, and then I spread it out equally. And the key in this is that I never crammed. I didn't sit for hours trying to soak in all of that information. I broke everything down into small manageable tasks tasks that allows me to study for just 2 hours a day. And sometimes, yes, I would need to study for like 4 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours, or even 15 hours a day, but that's not my everyday life. That is literally like once in a blue moon. I also use something that we call as active recall, which is basically forcing yourself to remember things instead of just passively reading your textbook. Instead of copying notes, I would look at the topic, write down everything I remember before checking my notes all over again. Then I would also explain the concept as if I was teaching someone. This is called the Feynman technique. I would also answer past paper questions once more without looking at my books, just to make sure that I know everything and grasp all of the concepts that I've just learned. This way, I wasn't wasting time on stuff I already knew. I would directly go to the stuff I didn't like and just go through it instead of staying in the parts that I'm comfortable in. The problem that arose from this was tracking what I've already done. I started to get quite unorganized about it, so I needed a way to keep track of everything I was learning, so I made a master summary. This was my golden cheat sheet, and it looks like this. I'll put it up on the screen right here. But what I have here is called a master summary, and while not all of them look like this is a great example of what I did. I actually literally wrote down everything about like all of the formulas that I needed. I noted down the keywords that kept appearing. I categorized the past papers by question, by topic. This helped me to see which chapters were tested the most. It also allowed me to see what the examiners want me to say, gives me specific ideas of what I needed to remember, and learning them early on gives me a big advantage as compared to everybody else. On top of this, I also had another notebook which I call as the treasure book, and in this I add like the definitions, not just the keywords but actual definitions, and most importantly, the mistakes that I keep making in every single paper. If I got a question wrong, I didn't just move on from it. I actually used this as a learning moment. I made a note of it so that I wouldn't make the same mistake again in the next ones. Now, what I also did in order to make myself faster at doing the past papers, not just for the sake of my actual exams, but also for the sake of me practicing, because I'm doing like about 10 past papers a day at this point. And to be honest, this was with me doing like maybe just 3 hours of work, and I was able to do a lot of past papers. That's because each past paper would only take me about like half an hour, 45 minutes, even if it is a 2 hour long paper. And the main reason for that was because I already knew the questions by heart. I knew all the knowledge by heart. I knew exactly what type of questions they would ask me. If I see a diagram, I would automatically already think about what they're gonna ask me. Like, I could actually predict what they're gonna say just by looking at the diagrams itself. And because of that, it made it so much easier for me to get through the paper. By the time I had done about like 5 to 6 past papers, I had a clean, categorized summary of the most important concepts, the exact words that my teachers would want me to say, or the examiners or my professors, whatever it is, and the recurring questions pattern, what keeps coming up. When I revise, I then only focus on this summary. I don't need to look through the textbook anymore to go through the topic of bonding, to go through the topic of thermodynamics, whatever it is. I don't need to flip through the textbooks anymore. No watching long, boring lectures. I literally just use this summarized notes that I use for everything. And because I had tracked everything so well for the past 2 months, the day before the exam, I literally don't need to study. I didn't even study for my A-level chemistry exam, like I said before. Now let's talk about the mental strategy and how you can avoid burnout, because with this, honestly, I feel like cramming would give you more burnout, but let's talk about it anyways. One of the biggest reasons people fail is not because they're dumb, on contrary to popular belief. It's because they burn out from studying way too much. And again, cramming does that for you. I never force myself to study for long hours a day. If I feel like it, then I would. If I don't want to, then I don't. If I felt tired, I took a break. If I was bored, I would switch subjects. You need to understand what your body wants from you and how your body works. What I say right now may not even work for you. It might just be that it's a guidance for you, but it may not work the exact same way that it does for me. So you need to figure out how it works well for your body and just amend it from there. Most importantly as well, I never sacrifice sleep. So many people think that pulling all-nighters is grinding, but sleep is when your brain actually processes the information. I have never once done an all-nighter. I have sometimes slept for like 6 hours only, but the least amount of time I slept for an exam is literally just 6 hours. Aside from that, I sleep like 8 to 10 hours. I make sure that I at least get 7 hours where I can. If I ever get overwhelmed, I also need to remind myself that I already knew most of the important exam questions. I had practiced everything in the correct format already, and I had a summary of everything that mattered anyways. So I don't need to panic because I have all the information I need. So even if I took a day off, I was not falling behind either. When the exam day came, I wasn't even nervous at all. I knew exactly what was coming. I sat down, I read the questions and thought, oh yeah, I've seen that before. I walked in, wrote my exam answers, and then walked out feeling happy, eating food with my friends, and that's it. And the best part is, the day before the exam, I was not doing any past papers. I was completely free. No cramming, no crying, no dilly-dallying. I was literally just like relaxing. So if you want that same peace, it's better to start now than literally the day before your exam. If you can do it 3 months before, that's even better. Use this for next year's academic season. Don't do it the night before. Trust me, it's worth it. Anyways, that is how I pulled it off. Aside from that, let me know how you study so I can also figure out if that works for me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!